Do you know how to make this? Well, let me show you. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Luke, and in this video I'm going to be showing you exactly how I made this, my Namor headdress. Start to finish, from the 3D printing, the files, the paint, the weathering, the leaves, and the stand that it goes on. I'm going to be going through every single bit of these paints, the guns, and everything you need to know on how you can achieve one of these. This video is a long one, but it's fully detailed. You will know exactly how to make this from start to finish of this video. So, first thing we need to do is go find some 3D files. I am very excited about these files. Since the start of this year, where I challenged myself to make a YouTube video every single week for an entire year, this helmet has been on the list for so long. Now, these renders that DO3D have done don't really make it as exciting as it is. So, along with all the files, I am going to be resin printing everything. Yes, it's going to weigh a lot, and yes, it'll take a little bit of time, but I do not want to sand this. All of those leaves, all of the details, everything, I want to capture everything. So yes, I am going to be resin printing this, and well, yes, I've already resin printed it. As you can see, I've already started playing around with the leaves. The whole headdress is in the paint booth at the moment. It has primer on it, but as you can see, all of these leaves, well, there's a lot of them. This headdress on its own has a ton of color. This whole front main detail piece here is like a glossy, metallic-y gold chrome, and it looks amazing. Then you've got all these leaves which have got gold with like blue accents with resin look through it. Then all of the leaves are all different patterns and all of that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of detail in the painting. But the benefits with doing the resin printing is we're going to capture all the detail. We don't have to sand everything. Just a fair bit of primer and a little bit of wet sanding will be perfectly fine, and we'll figure the rest out later. So as always, a massive thank you to DO3D for supporting this channel, supporting me in everything crazy and ridiculous that I make. And without them, I probably wouldn't be here making this video or have made anything within this room. Now, if you are interested in making this Namor headdress, any Iron Man suits, Ant-Man helmets, this, that, and the other, don't forget to use code CRE8 at checkout, and you'll get 20% off in doing all of your projects and builds and becoming absolutely addicted with sanding and painting and priming and doing this, that, and the other with all of these crazy files that DO3D offers. Now, also, the last thing I'm also going to say is, in case you were wondering which printer I used an Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra. This is one of their sort of larger volume resin printers that is actually going really relatively cheap, seeing how integrated all of the different tech with the lights and this, that, and the other. I'm not one to talk about the printers, I just use them. But it does fit all of the files perfectly. You've got to juggle things around a little bit. Most of these big long leaves at the back have to be tilted on their side, but yes, you can make every single thing fit on the one printer. So that was just in case anyone was wondering if you needed a super big printer, you can just get away with like a moderate printer. If you have the smaller ones, you could probably fit most of them, maybe not the bigger leaves and the side fins down the side, but just give it a shot. Worst comes to worst, find a company that does it, or you could FDM it, which will be fine. Just make sure it's on a really high setting and it's super, super easy. Okay, so the other thing before we get onto the painting is actually how we're going to be displaying this helmet. So obviously, because this is a headdress, it also has those weird fang sort of side panel things, and because it's all the leaves, it's really back heavy and front heavy, and it's not really like a helmet where you can just sort of place it on a table and sort of display it that way. And you can't also use these wall mounts because, well, the leaves are really tall, so you'd have to have it like in the middle of a wall, and it's very complicated in that way. So I've come up with another idea. So I have just printed off a head. So I found this file just over on CG Trader. I'll leave a link down in the description if you wanted to purchase it. But it was just a nice simple little file of a head. I did also scale this up to fit the DO3D size, which is a 24-inch head. These are the measurements if you want to do that, if you're printing the helmet at 100% scale, but if you're upscaling it and stuff, you'd maybe have to do it yourself. But at 100%, those are your measurements. So this way I can display the head on the table and then put the headdress over the top. It fits front to back perfectly. The side fang details go down to the bottom. Here's a video of actually what it looks like on the stand. But this was just a really good, easy solution to displaying the headdress. We got a package. So now with the headdress, you will also notice because DO3D has added some leaves, and don't get me wrong, the whole model looks absolutely incredible with the amount of leaves we've got. I think it's like 26 or something, but I feel like the back of the helmet is a little bit bare. Now, this is the back panel of the helmet, well, headdress. This sort of rests just there on the back of your head. and well, there's no leaves on it, as you can see. Now, I've thought of the idea of adding some fake leaves to sort of fill in those gaps to make it look, well, more full. So that's where I've purchased some stuff off of Temu. I was originally going to buy some of those really big trees that you could buy, but they're like $100, $200 for just like a plastic tree, which is outrageous, I think, for a plasticky thing. Whereas you can buy a whole pack of these is 72 leaves for, well, 20 bucks. Then I've got some of these. These are some like red leaf tip sort of ones, which I think will work really well, just adding that little bit of hint of color up the back. I've bought some aloe vera plants because, well, I like the look of the leaves. I've got some white feathers for around the sides and some red feathers as well. I did get some of these really long leaves. I don't know what they are, but they look really cool. They're long, and they'll also probably do a really good job of sticking around the back of this bit and then sort of showing up behind the bigger leaves that we've got in the headdress. And then another one of the aloe vera plants, just so I can rip the leaves off. They look like really good leaves. The picture, I won't lie, looked bigger. But that's alright, we can make do with some of these. I think they'll be really, really good. So these are some of the leaves that I just ended up purchasing. We'll see if they actually work or not, but I think they really will. These are really colourful. And seeing these are plastic, they'll also be lightweight, meaning we won't have to worry about them being resin printed or anything. We also don't have to paint anything. These are more just, like I said, a filling item, which I thought might be a really good concept. Just seeing how cool this helmet, like headdress helmet is, I think these sorts of leaves will add a lot more flair to the helmet. So we'll unbox these, we'll play around with these later in the video. They're gonna work really well. I don't know what these are. So just have a look around on Temu, see what you can find. I think in total, I ended up spending about 50 bucks AUD for all of this, which is really good because I'm not spending like 100 bucks on one tree to get maybe like 3 leaves. So let's continue on. Let's go and actually focus on the paint that we need to be putting down on this helmet so we can start assembling it and start getting it ready with the leaves. All right, so it's painting time. Now, before I go on to any of this painting, the thing you need to know is this project is not easy. You're going to have a lot of challenges. There is a lot of learning curves in there. There's so many different layers of paint. Some parts even consisting of 16 different layers of paint, all combined into one. It's a bit of a nightmare, but it's super, super worth it in the end. But I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do. So we're going to start with these back layer of leaves, the big, long green ones. First thing we're going to do after the whole thing has been prepped and primed, we're just going to spray it in some TS43. This is Tamiya's Racing Green. It's a nice shiny green, which is perfect for the leaves. They blend in with all my other leaves perfectly. We're just gonna spray a nice flat, even coat over the whole leaf. After that's complete, we're just gonna do a nice little simple black wash, just getting it into all of the little crevices and details. If you wanna go through and airbrush it, go for it, but I just liked the black wash. I just thought it's a little bit easier to do. After that's done, we're gonna let that dry, and then we're going to spray it with some TS80. This is Tamiya's Flat Clear. You've seen me use this quite a few times on some different projects when I need something flat, and it works absolutely perfectly. Just gonna knock that shine off the entire leaf and seal and protect our green and our black wash. And that's the back layer of leaves done. Onto these blue, green, black sort of ones. The first thing I'm gonna do is gonna spray the entire leaf in a nice flat black by MTN. This is a really nice flat black. It goes down super easy, super clean, and looks really, really nice once sprayed. After that's done, we need to do a little bit of airbrushing. We're gonna go through some white, some blue violet, and this one. Don't know how to pronounce it. We're just gonna mix that up, go more of the green and some white, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the blue violet, just to sort of give you a nice pastel sort of light green. And we're just going to airbrush this on. We're just gonna try and follow the patterns of the leaves in the different patterns sort of fanning out, and just try and follow those streaks of the leaf. That's what's gonna give you a more natural looking effect. And once that's done, we're just gonna spray the whole thing, again in some TS80, to knock off that shine even more and make it sealed and protected. So that's the back 2 layers of leaves done. But on now to the full helmet. So the first thing I'm gonna do after that has been fully prepped, sanded and primed is spray the whole thing in a 2K gloss black. This is my Alumaluster 2K black. This is the perfect gloss black to go down over any Alumaluster project and gives you the absolute perfect shine. So we're just gonna spray this nice and even over every single piece. All of our leaves, the main tops, the sides, the fins, and the gem on the top. And then after done that, we're gonna spray it with some Alumaluster to make it extra beautiful, shiny chrome. And once our chrome is down, we need to also just go through with a nice little microfiber cloth and just take off the little bits of dust. Now, when you spray Alumaluster, you will notice there is a little bit of dust that just lands onto each project because you spray it like a dust. Then you just want to wipe off the dust. This will give you an even shinier finish and give you better adhesion when you spray the next coat, say, of our gold and our clear coat. So once our whole project has been Alumalustered, we now need to start worrying about our candies. After Alumaluster is sprayed, we need to start sorting the rest of the parts. So let's go and talk about our little gem front piece here. So the first thing I did once the Alumaluster was sprayed was go through with some wet sanding paper. You want to go through with some about 1,000 to 2,000. I think I went 2,500. Can't quite remember. Just a nice light wet sandpaper. Essentially what you're doing is just taking off the Alumaluster and taking off the clear finish of our gloss black so that it basically turns into a flat black. This flat black is what's going to make our next layer of paint adhere and look even better. Now for the little copper details on here, I just taped around them over the Alumaluster. Alumaluster is fairly strong when you put it onto a nice glossy black base coat. Be careful when you put it onto like a 2K clear, it sometimes will peel off quite easily, but do some tests beforehand. So I'm just gonna tape off the little gemstone and then spray it in some SMS copper. This copper is a beautiful, beautiful paint to spray. It's really easy to spray. You just spray it through an airbrush. And we're just gonna spray some nice even coats over the thing and building up our copper layers. So once our copper is down, we've got our Alumaluster taped off. We're just going to go through with just a really cheap rattle can of clear coat. This clear coat's just gonna lock in that copper. The SMS stuff I find doesn't handle tape in the slightest. You put a tiny bit of tape, it peels everything off. I don't know if that's just the base coat I keep putting them on, but they just don't work. If you choose to go with the SMS, just put a nice layer of clear coat over the top to lock and seal it in. Once that's done, it's time to remove the tape and then tape over our copper details once our clear coat has dried. And then we're gonna go through with some SMS clear green. This green's gonna give us that beautiful green shine over our Alumaluster and make it extra, extra shiny. So once that fully thing is sprayed, well then that's that gemstone done. We're gonna put that one aside until we need to do our clear coating. On to this front nose piece. You'll notice there's two tiny little copper details on it. And as for that, we're just gonna do the exact same steps, which is just taking a little bit of wet sandpaper, sanding off our Alumaluster and sanding off the shine of our gloss black, so we've got a nice flat black base coat, taping off around that and spraying it in some SMS copper. After that's done, just spray it in some nice cheap rattle can clear and that'll lock it in. And then also remove that tape, then set that one aside. Then as for our side fins, these ones are the biggest pain in the backside. Now you'll notice that both the inside and the outside of my fins have been painted. I deeply regret doing this now because it was so time consuming to try and get, because I had to spray the 2K, the black at one time, let that dry, flip it over and then spray the black again. I then have to do the same with the Alumaluster. I had to be super careful with doing this. If you glue a little paddle pop stick just around the top, you can't even see it in there. You can just have like a fraction bit. That way you can spray both the back and the front at the same time. No one's gonna notice. And if you get the back just a little bit worse, well, I haven't even seen the back of my side fins since I put it on display. So don't be too paranoid. But what we are going to do is take that wet sandpaper again and sand out all of the Alumaluster and the shine of the clear. Now here's what the pattern actually looks like, so your taping reference. It's a bit of a weird, intricate one. It takes a little bit of time, but do take your time because the copper details actually really pop against our blue. And then yes, we're gonna go through with some SMS copper and we're just going to spray a nice coat of that and then clear coat the whole thing in just a rattle can clear. After that's done, we're gonna pull off all our tape and then leave our clear coat to dry. Once that clear coat's dry is now we're gonna tape over our copper detail. All of the bigger sort of areas, I did use some masking tape, but for those super, super small intricate details, I went through with some liquid latex. So once you've gotten all of your gold taped, now on to doing the clear. For this, I use some SMS Clear Aqua. This spray is exactly the same as the green. We're just gonna do some nice, really even coats over the whole helmet, building layer by layer by layer. Then after that's done, well, that's pretty much it. Now, I will also say that I do regret going with these clears. I should have gone with a DNA candy paint. I would have sprayed it much faster, much cleaner, much evenly. But unfortunately, I didn't. I was too scared to do DNA candy paints. I didn't know much about them. And now looking back at it, I regret doing that. So if you want to do a better finish than using these SMS clears, I definitely recommend trying out a candy paint. I go with the DNA candy paints because that's what I have available here in Australia, but go with plenty other candy brands. They all work the exact same. And that will give you a better finish, I reckon, than this. But once that's done, it's time to do these little airbrushing details. Now you'll notice on the side of these fins and also these little bits up on the tusks, I did also forget to mention that. Do the exact same for these, but you can just leave it clear. Don't bother Alumalustering them. Just wet sand the thing so it's flat black, then spray it in the aqua clear, and then you'll be fine. You will also notice in some of my videos, they are stuck to the helmet. Stupid me, accidentally glued them. I couldn't remove them, and I knew if I removed them, they would break. So I had more of a difficult job with taping them. But if you're a genius and don't glue them directly to this piece, you'll be fine. So once the whole blue has been sprayed and our copper has been sprayed, we now want to go through and airbrush some white details. Now a really cool thing that I tried was doing some nice like white stencil details throughout the piece, and they work absolutely perfectly. We're just going to go on a really nice fine tip. I use the iWater Eclipse that gives me so much control, so much detail. And we're just going to do some nice random patterns of white. There's no real actual explanation on how I did this, it's just spraying at random. So I'm just going to spray these details, joining corners to corners, doing details, making it look really patterned and more like sort of a stringed look. And once that's done over the whole helmet and it looks a bit like lightning, then that's that piece done. We're gonna set that one aside. The other thing, the same applies to this beautiful gemstone up the top. This one's one of my favorite pieces of the whole helmet. We're gonna gloss black it, Alumaluster, and then tape off around our blue and spray our copper, meaning wet sanding off the Alumaluster and the shine, spraying the copper, clear coating it, then taping over it, spraying our beautiful blue over the top, then doing our airbrushing details. And that's how you get that beautiful finish on this one. And then that's all of that paint out of the way. As you can see, we're only about halfway in and there's a lot of painting. But on to our big creature. The next thing we're going to do is take some beautiful Imperial Squeeze box. This is their Killer Bee, and we're also going to take some FX Intercoat binder. So basically, these are the Imperial Surface inks. They're basically like an alcohol ink, and this FX Intercoat binder is basically like a clear coat, but more towards a glue. So basically what we're doing is adding the pigment into our binder, and our binder is acting as our glue, and we're just gluing on our beautiful tint. Now this will take some time to layer up. Do not rush it, take your time, get it to the gold that you want it to be. I added about 9 drops of Killer Bee per 30 mil. I went about 50 mil, so I did around maybe 16 to 17 drops. That's what I've used for the entire helmet, plus all the leaves at the back. And we're just gonna build these layers up and up and up and up. Do not rush this step, just take your time. And make sure every pass is nice and even and coated, or otherwise you'll start getting weird bits that are more darker than other sides, and it just doesn't look as good. But once you sprayed that over the top, the sides, the fins, and these 2 beautiful ear pieces, then we're pretty much done. So I just taped these beautiful white bits off, wet sanded them, got rid of the Alumaluster and the flat and the shine off the black, sprayed it in just some Createx white, and just did a nice even layer of that, then did some speckle black over that. I then clear coated it in some TS80 to give it that nice flat shine, and that sealed it. Then I taped it, then did the gold. I'm sorry, that's so out of order to the rest of this video. But yes, basically, do the white before you do the gold. Then once that's done, it's time for our clear. So we're going to clear all of our leaves. We're going to clear all of the headdress, all of the fins, all of the details, besides the 2 tiers of leaves in an MS22 2K clear. This is a 2K automotive clear. It is beautiful stuff to spray, very toxic, so if you be careful. But this is what's going to give us this ultimate finish, give us the extra shine and extra protection. And we're just going to spray this over everything. Now do be really careful, make sure when you do all of these little white details onto the thing, make sure these have had a sufficient amount of time to dry. I left mine for about a week, I believe. You can do it about 24 to 48 hours later. The longer you leave it, the better it's going to be. Do a really nice light mist coats and build up this clear. If you spray this down too heavy, they can crackle, peel, and ruin the whole project. So do really take your time. Because these are acrylics and these are lacquers, they don't mix, they're not friends, but you can make them be friends. So just do take your time when doing that. And you think we're done? Well, think again, because you're wrong. We need to now do our little copper details around the eyes. Now around the eyes, I just took a nice piece of wet sanding paper, as usual, took off the clear, took off the gold, took off the Alumaluster, and took off the shine of our gloss black, taped around the eye, more in the frame. I wasn't too worried where this blue is because we're adding something on later, which we'll talk about. And then we just sprayed it in, yes, some SMS copper. That's just matching and tying everything in with the rest of the helmet. And then that's pretty much it for the paint. There is so much paint in this thing, but basically your final thoughts is just take your time. Don't rush this. The clears spray nice and evenly. Just make sure there's lots of little bits of wet sanding here and there. Just rewatch this video hundreds of times, that's probably what I'd do. But just think about what layers of paints need to go down when. So that's pretty much it for the paint. Now, if you do have any questions or concerns, because I'm trying to rush through this because, well, it's probably already like 17 hours long, this video. The paint's really detailed and intricate. I'm gonna make a little reel, trying to make it a little fast, but if you are concerned about any of the painting, please leave a comment down below or message me over my Instagram. I'm more than happy to answer any single question. I'll probably even make you a video just explaining the whole thing front to back. But that is painting the headdress. On to the little details, the leaves and the weathering. All right, so the last thing we need to talk about in this headdress is our leaves and the full assembly of the helmet. Now, DO3D's files are absolutely incredible, and there's a bunch of different screw mounting points within the headdress. So different screws ranging down the back, around the eyes, around the top, and around the frame, which holds all of our leaves to the headdress. Now, you do have to be careful when you print this thing in resin. If it was tough resin, don't stress. You can just sort of screw it straight in, and it is super, super, super simple. But for me, I resin printed it, so it is a little bit fragile. But basically going through with some M3 screws, about the 6mm to about 10mm long. I range between the two depending on what pieces are connected where. You've got a screw mounting points just around the top that fit all the bracket for all of the leaves. Now do make a test fit and do this all before you paint so you can assemble the whole thing as one. You will need to go through with a drill bit on some of the different pieces just to screw everything in together and make sure the tolerances are correct. And also you need to make sure when printing, you print the right side face. Now when I printed this, there was no such thing as the different panel, but essentially when I put this thing on the stand, I'll try and not break this, but the connection between the feathers, which is what this harness looks like, and this piece, there would be a huge gap down the bottom. You'd essentially put it onto the head and it would just split apart like so. So I contacted DO3D as usual, being incredible people they are, managed to make up a bracket that screws into the back and into the side. But they've also gone and revised this side panel. I believe that it is completely removed this version. It's now the current version with the screw brackets, but it basically connects these points as one solid piece. So make sure when you print that, this is what the piece looks like. It'll have this little L bracket sort of looking thing with two screw points, and that's how you're gonna get the headdress to stay as one full solid unit and not split apart when you build it. But basically take your time, screw each individual piece in. So as you can see in this video, the bracket at the back for our big green leaves is FDM'd. The second tier is FDM'd, but the blue bits, these are all printed in tough resin. Now because you've got this bracket that builds across here and builds down and connects in, that has to be tough resin. I couldn't FDM because it just snapped. I couldn't resin print it because it just snapped. The tough resin, you must print this piece. This is what supports all the leaves, is this one piece and all little structural brackets around it. So make sure that thing is tough resin. If you want to go to the extent of tough resin, all of it, go for it. I didn't do that because it doesn't fit on my printer, but do try and do as much as you can in tough resin. As for that, go and do the entire helmet in tough resin. I have sadly broken little tiny bits and pieces just because resin chips so easily. Everything was resin printed. It probably was a mistake. If I was to do it again, it would be all tough resin, no matter what. So that's pretty much the assembly of the thing. Once the thing's painted and built, I just go through with some hot glue and all of my Timu leaves that we were talking about earlier, and I just built it up. There's no real image. I just went and did what I thought. Filling in different spots, smaller spots, my little neat detailed pieces, adding the feathers adds so much texture and detail, and it's just all up to you on what you're after in the effect. So, final note on all of that. If you can, tough resin the entire helmet. And when you build the bracket, make sure that first bit is tough resin, and the back two, they can be tough resin or just FDM them, they're okay. You probably will need to go through with a drill and pre-drill all of the holes just to make sure all the tolerances are correct. Do take your time, because if it is normal resin, it will crack. Tough resin, you're pretty much solid. But that's pretty much it for the assembly. So let's go on to our paint. All right, so on to the weathering. Now we're gonna make this one super short and concise because it's super simple. All I did was take the iWater Eclipse, a little bit of Createx color, which is just black, and just sprayed the entire helmet. That's it. Just doing nice light little mist coats over the rest of the helmet, doing it all over the leaves, over the feathers, over the side details, over every little bit. Still a little bit wet, that just sort of made it look more like a wet look. Seeing that this headdress is also in the water sometimes and on land, sort of brings that storytelling together. And that's pretty much it for the weathering. On to the little bits of the details. Now when I talk about the details, I am talking about the little blue bits in the helmet. It's all little details just on the side plate, which I actually didn't paint at all. It's as simple as going with some UV resin and some blue mica powder. Now this blue powder is just pigment powder. I think it's called mica powder. And basically what it is just color that's pearlescent that you can mix through UV resins or epoxy resins. So then I took one of these little bottles. Also come with a little needle tip. I used mine with the resin, they've seized up and I've thrown it out. But basically I just cut it down to a little bit of a shorter length just so I didn't have to push the resin through the needle. Now I did go with these. It is incredibly time consuming. It took about 5 hours to do the entire helmet because the resin comes out so slowly through the tiny little pin needle drop. But I'd much rather it take a longer time and have a better result. So essentially all I did was go through every single little detail that there was and fill it up with the resin and cure it with a UV light. Going around the eyes, going around the sides, going around the details, then through all of the gold leaves in the tier 3. It took a while, but I think it looks amazing. And the UV is protected, so you do this after the clear coat. So that was how I did all of the blue details. So that's all your weathering and details complete. So that pretty much does it for the entire helmet. So that is the headdress complete. I'm not picking this thing up, I'm not breaking it. But basically that is how I built my entire Namor headdress start to finish. It took a while, but I am so proud of it. The only thing I do regret is the blue being an SMS clear. I really should have gone through with the DNA candy paint. It would have been stronger, easier to paint, and less fragile, but that's all right. I love just seeing it here standing on the beautiful base, the beautiful leaves, and all that filling of the leaves into the end really brings the whole thing together more than just the DO3D leaves in the mix. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know it was a very long video, but I wanted to cram every bit of detail in so you know exactly how to make one. But other than that, let's head to the final result.